Okay, class in fiction. Now, this is a subject that is very close to my own heart. I am personally from a working class background and have gone in and out of what you could describe as working class and underclass personally. Now, I feel that working class and underclass characters are not only underrepresented but also poorly represented in literature as a whole, particularly nowadays. I mean, historically, I don't know, you can go into Charles Dickens and different examples, and obviously that's not the general point of this. It's not in depth in that way, but just to say that in general, I don't see enough working class and underclass characters, and when I do, the portrayal is not good. And I'm talking about writers who are writing today primarily, whether they're setting it historically or setting it now. But yeah, anyway, so I keep going a little bit off course and then I start again. So this isn't coming out quite right or quite as I would want it to, but we'll stay with it for now. Now, Distorted Perceptions, my novel as an example. Now, there are some characters, such as Matt and James, who have really done quite well career wise, but they would still have gone down the same route, the sort of starting in jobs. I think they were both working in insurance companies. So what happened, because they were good at what they did and they were natural sort of at it, they got promotion after promotion, and that's how they did it. So I represent that, definitely. People who are in the office work kind of areas, but they do well for themselves, and there is that. And certainly, I mean, I was rubbish at really. I mean, I did actually get a promotion, but yeah, I was rubbish at office work. I hated office work. It was not for me. I did it because I had to do something, and I was more or less made to feel that there weren't any other options, and I was suicidal at times over having to do some of the jobs that I had to do because it really didn't bring out the best in me. But anyway, in general, I I reflect what I see around me. So, say like Lucy in Distorted Perceptions. Now she has a job like it's an admin job, and she's assisting the secretary Amy. And yeah, so that job is actually based on a job I did at Allendines Partnership, where I was assisting a secretary there. And basically, but my job was actually, even compared to Lucy's job, my job was actually employment training, which is basically just we can get away with YTS, but even when you're 19, we'll still get away with it because some of the people just desperately need jobs, even though they're 19, and they'll put up with only having a tenner on top of benefits and working full time. And I was supposed to do a day of training, but they didn't let me do Monday because there were too many meetings that they wanted all their cups of tea for and everything. So they wouldn't let me do the day I was supposed to do. So I did the day when all the people were just coming in to tie up loose ends who had basically not quite finished the work the year before. Nobody at the training centre knew what to do with me because I wasn't really actually on the course. I was just with the people who were, and to be honest, most of them weren't actually doing it properly. They were just messing around and had no intention of actually. Some of them did, but some of them didn't. And anyway, there was no real intention of me actually doing the course, but because it suited them for basically for me to do it on the wrong day, they kind of, so it was all things like that is what I'm saying, just basically extorting young people in various ways. But I mean YTS, yeah, I mean if you're too young or you're not from the UK, you've probably heard of it, but if you haven't, just Google it or whatever. But ask somebody old, you know. But yeah, anyway, so that was how I did that job. But in actual fact, because when the first version of distorted perceptions that I started when I was 18, when I was originally going to write that version of the same novel, see introduction of the book. Anyway, that version, Lucy was originally working at the Inland Revenue, which was my first job, and the reason why that would have been because at the time, apart from a paper round, I hadn't actually had any work experience. And that was my first full time job. It was the only job I'd experienced. So, but it sort of I know. So when I did the Alan Dines job, the Alan Dines job ended up being, I'm saying the actual name of the employer. It doesn't matter. It's not really very specific anyway. But yeah, that's the job that inspired it, and it's called the Arthur Hart Partnership, which is the fictional architect's office, as it were. And anyway, yeah, so that's where Lucy ends up working. But that was sort of me rearranging it. Of actually I've got this experience now, but I always just stuck with that. And I think I was only actually working there for about 6 weeks or so, something like that. It wasn't that long in total, and I became quite ill, and I was kind of on the verge of anorexia then. And anyway, I don't know, but I left, and yeah, but it was never going to be all that long term anyway. But yeah, I left that one, and they tried to get me another job in the United Nations. But anyway, the thing is, I've had a whole string of office work. I don't know how I got talking about all that, except that because I do this on a tangent basis. Except that, yeah, that's what I was saying. That's where Lucy's job came from. What it came from, and Kath, her sister, she actually did work at the Inland Revenue, which is only referenced because I didn't show her at work there because it's all from Lucy's viewpoint anyway. But yes, she did. Sarah had a job with it was with a local supermarket. That's where she eventually worked. She was 14 when the story started though, so she was at school in 1983. But yeah, and that was very much. I don't think I ever explicitly say, but Sarah would have been somebody who would have been expected to like do pretty well, but because of the way things went for her, she was underperforming compared to what would otherwise have been expected. And although I don't explicitly say that, I think it's fairly obvious in the context. I don't really know where I'm going with this because a lot of the things are whole subjects in themselves. But anyway, so yeah, what I was saying, yeah, in general, working class and underclass backgrounds, it's just kind of, it is underrepresented. And of course, I've got Kev Tanner, Jake Bryant, all the kind of guys who hang around the King's Head. Obviously, we are representing underclass as well, very much with those characters. So, yeah, so I'm I'm very much going off course, and I've kind of lost the original point, but we get there anyway. And yeah, I might be able to revisit some of these points. I think really, yeah, I've just become a little bit vague about exactly what I was saying, but yeah, that's what I was saying really. Just basically in distorted perceptions, those are some of the examples, but yeah, in my writing as a whole, that's what I prioritise to represent working and underclass characters. And I really don't see enough other authors doing that. So, yeah, that's it really.